The phone rang at 2 a.m., slicing through the silence like a knife. Emma said, "Hello? Who is this?" A man's voice whispered, "I shouldn't be calling, but you deserve to know." Her chest tightened, dread rising. She glanced at Daniel asleep beside her, his face calm, as if hiding nothing. Emma said, "Who are you talking about?" The voice quivered. "Daniel isn't who you think he is." She froze, gripping the phone, staring at her husband's peaceful breathing. Every heartbeat thundered in her ears. Emma said, "What do you mean? Tell me right now." The man's tone cracked. "He has another life, another family." Her stomach turned as if the ground opened beneath her. She whispered, "You're lying." The line went dead, leaving silence sharper than the words. Emma dropped the phone, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She looked at Daniel again, his chest rising and falling as though nothing had changed. A scream burned in her throat but refused to escape. In that moment, the truth had entered her home like a stranger in the dark, and nothing would ever be the same. Emma sat rigid in the darkness, her breath shallow, her mind clawing for reason. She whispered, "It's impossible. Daniel loves me." Her chest hurt, as if her own body rejected the thought. She remembered every promise he ever made, every moment he swore devotion. Daniel stirred in his sleep, mumbling softly, his words blurred, almost suspicious. Emma leaned closer, trembling. Daniel murmured, "Don't tell her, please." Her heart pounded so violently she thought he would wake from its noise. She whispered to herself, "No, this is just a dream." Yet the words from the call replayed like a curse, heavy and unrelenting. She clenched the blanket tight, trying to anchor herself, but her grip only reminded her of the emptiness spreading in her soul. She prayed silently that dawn would bring clarity, but feared it would only bring The silence stretched into suffocating eternity. Emma whispered, "I can't ignore this." Her hand shook as she picked up the phone again, scrolling through call logs. No number was saved, no trace, like the voice never existed. She bit her lip hard, tasting copper, grounding herself in pain. Her eyes darted back to Daniel, his brow furrowed, his hand twitching in a dream. She thought of the stranger's words, "Another life, another family," and bile rose in her throat. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but terror of the truth locked her in silence. Instead, she pressed the phone to her chest, as though holding on to the last piece of sanity. She whispered, "If you're hiding something, I'll find it." The night pressed down on her, heavy and merciless. Emma stood, bare feet cold on the wooden floor, each creak sounding like betrayal itself. She whispered, "I have to know." She padded toward Daniel's dresser, hands shaking as she opened the top drawer. Shirts folded neatly, nothing unusual. Her fingers brushed across a leather wallet. She pulled it out, heart hammering. Flipping it open, she expected safety and the familiar cards and Ids, but her breath froze. A photo slipped out, Daniel smiling with a woman she did not know, holding a child with his same eyes. Emma's body shuddered violently. She whispered, "No, this can't be real." Her knees weakened, and she clutched the dresser for balance, the room spinning. The night had delivered its proof. Emma collapsed onto the edge of the bed, her face pale and drenched in sweat. She whispered, "He lied to me. He lied about everything." The photo shook in her hand as if it carried a pulse of its own. She looked at Daniel, his 35-year-old body still resting peacefully, unaware of the storm breaking around him. Emma whispered, "How could you?" Her voice cracked under the weight of betrayal. She wanted to tear the photo apart, but her trembling fingers clung tighter instead. The silence of the house felt suffocating, as though even the walls mourned with her. A truth once whispered was now carved in stone, and Emma knew there was no return. Morning light seeped through the curtains, but Emma felt no warmth. She sat at the edge of the bed, the photo still trembling in her hand. Daniel stirred, yawning, stretching his arms lazily as though nothing in the world was wrong. He smiled and said, "Good morning, Em." His voice carried the same tenderness that had once made her believe in forever. Her stomach twisted at the sound. Emma forced a smile, her lips barely moving, whispering, "Morning." She tucked the photo under the blanket quickly, her heart racing. Daniel leaned over and kissed her forehead softly. She wanted to recoil, but her body betrayed her, frozen in fear and confusion. Emma thought of the man's voice on the phone, and the truth bleeding from the photo. Daniel rubbed his eyes and said, "You look pale. Are you feeling sick?" She whispered, "Just tired." He nodded, stretching again, oblivious. Emma's mind screamed, how can he lie so easily? The love she once felt for him now fought with a rising dread, anchoring her in unbearable silence. Emma sat across from Daniel at the kitchen table, the hum of the fridge, the only sound between them. He cheerfully buttered his toast, humming a tune. She stared at him, studying every move, every smile. Daniel said, "You barely touched your food." She forced a weak smile, whispering, "Not hungry." Her hands shook under the table, fists clenching around her phone. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but fear strangled her words. Daniel reached across, brushing her hand. "We should plan that trip to the coast," he said warmly. His touch, once comforting, now burned like ice. Emma pulled her hand back slowly, whispering, "Maybe later." His eyes narrowed, confusion flickering for a moment, then he laughed it off. Emma's mind raced. Was he laughing at her, or at the cruel secret he carried? She whispered to herself, unheard, "I need proof. I need the truth." The morning air felt heavy, thicker than smoke, as she swallowed her despair with silence. Emma stood in the bathroom, staring at her reflection. Her eyes were red, her face drawn. She whispered, "Who are you, Daniel?" Her hands gripped the sink so tightly, her knuckles whitened. The photo burned in her pocket like a hidden blade. Suddenly, Daniel knocked gently. "Em, you okay in there?" His voice sounded tender, worried even, but every note twisted her stomach. She whispered, "I'm fine." He lingered outside, his footsteps shifting slightly, then faded away. Emma's breath trembled as she pulled the photo out, staring at Daniel's smile with the unknown woman and child. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the photo against the mirror, whispering, "What life are you hiding from me?" Her reflection stared back, broken and betrayed. She felt the walls closing in, the air thinning, every second heavier than the last. Her life was unraveling, and she was trapped in its knots. Later that afternoon, Emma sat in the living room, staring at the phone. She whispered, "Call me again, please." She dialed back the number, but the line was dead, no trace of the mysterious voice. Her chest tightened. Daniel walked in smiling, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He said, "Thought you could use this." His kindness struck her like poison. She forced a small smile, whispering, "Thank you." He sat beside her, his arm brushing against hers. Emma felt her heart race, not with love but with fear. She whispered to herself, "How do you pretend so well?" Daniel leaned in, saying, "We're okay, aren't we?" His eyes searched hers with warmth, but she saw shadows lurking behind them. Her throat tightened, words stuck, so she simply nodded. Inside, her soul screamed, "No, we're not okay." The truth was already here, haunting every gesture, every smile, every breath between them. That night, Emma lay in bed, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Daniel's breathing beside her was steady, calm, as if he carried no burden. She whispered, "How many lies are between us?" Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. She turned slightly, watching his face in the moonlight. He looked so peaceful, so trustworthy, yet her mind replayed the phone call, the photo, the whispers from his sleep. Her chest ached with the weight of betrayal. She whispered, "You're breaking me." Her hand hovered over him, wanting to shake him awake, demand truth, but instead she pulled it back. Fear chained her silence. She closed her eyes, clutching the photo hidden under her pillow. Sleep did not come, only the suffocating knowledge that her world was collapsing, piece by piece, beneath the mask of love. Emma sat in the living room, scrolling Daniel's phone while he showered. Her fingers trembled as she scanned through messages. Many were ordinary, but some were erased, blank spaces like shadows. Her breath quickened, whispering, "Why would you delete these?" A chill ran down her spine. She felt like she was touching the edge of a storm. Suddenly, Daniel called from the bathroom. "Em, where's my towel?" She jolted, nearly dropping the phone. She scrambled to lock the screen and tossed it onto the couch. "On the chair," she replied, trying to steady her voice. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She glanced at the phone again, its black screen reflecting her pale face, her fear. She whispered to herself, "I need answers." The water shut off, footsteps approached, and panic clawed at her chest. She sat stiffly, pretending to read a magazine, but her hands shook so badly the pages rattled. Emma knew the truth was close, yet she was terrified of touching it. Later, Emma met her best friend Sarah at a cafe downtown. Sarah, 33 years old, with blonde hair tied back, leaned in with concern. She said, "You look like you haven't slept in days." Emma stirred her coffee aimlessly, whispering, "I found something. I found something. I think Daniel's hiding another life." Sarah froze, eyes wide. "Are you serious?" she asked. Emma nodded, tears filling her eyes. She pulled the photo from her purse, sliding it across the table. Sarah's breath caught as she studied it. "Emma, this isn't just nothing. You need to confront him." Emma's hands shook as she whispered, "I don't know if I can." Sarah leaned closer, her voice sharp. "You have to. If you stay silent, it will destroy you." Emma stared at her reflection in the coffee's dark surface, her fear mirrored back at her. The cafe buzzed around them, but to Emma, the world had narrowed to Sarah's warning and the photo burning between them. That night, Emma sat alone in the car outside Daniel's office. She whispered, "If he's lying, I'll know tonight." The rain tapped against the windshield, each drop a ticking clock. She saw Daniel through the glass doors, laughing with coworkers as he left. He hugged a woman warmly, too warmly, before walking toward the parking lot. Emma's chest tightened. She ducked lower, her heart pounding. He passed by without noticing her. She whispered, "Who are you, Daniel?" She started the car, following him from a distance. Headlights dimmed. He drove with calm certainty, turning onto quieter streets. The city lights faded, replaced by the suburbs. Emma's hands clutched the wheel so tightly, her knuckles ached. Every turn he took felt like a knife carving her deeper. Her whisper was a vow now. "I will find the truth." The rain blurred her vision, but her determination cut through the storm. Emma followed Daniel's car until it stopped at a small suburban house. Her breath caught as she parked further down the street. She watched him step out, carrying a bag of groceries. A porch light flicked on, and a woman stepped out, the same woman from the photo, holding the same child. Emma gripped the steering wheel, her vision swimming. Daniel kissed the woman lightly, and the child ran into his arms. Emma whispered, "God, it's true." Her whole body trembled, nausea twisting her stomach. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel, tears spilling freely. The scene before her was a life stolen from her own, a world she had never been allowed to know. She whispered, "How long have you been living this lie?" Her sobs filled the car, muffled by the storm. The truth was no longer a shadow. It was alive before her eyes, undeniable and merciless. Emma drove home in silence, her hands numb on the wheel. Every streetlight felt like an interrogation lamp. She whispered, "He lied about everything." When she arrived, the house felt like a stranger's place. She stepped inside, clutching the photo tighter than ever. The walls seemed to echo with laughter that no longer belonged to her. Daniel was already home, his hair damp, his smile calm. He said, "There you are. Thought you'd be late." Emma's throat burned, but she forced a nod, whispering, "Just needed air." He kissed her cheek gently, unaware of her torment. Emma's body froze at his touch, the the warmth she once cherished now unbearable. She stared at him silently, her eyes screaming the words she couldn't speak. In that moment, she knew the conflict would devour her if she didn't act. But her fear chained her still, making her a prisoner in her own home. Emma sat at her desk, staring at Daniel's laptop. He had left for work, and the house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Her hand hovered over the keyboard, trembling. She whispered, "If I open this, I can't go back." But the thought of the woman and child pressed against her heart like a blade. She typed in his password, the one he swore only she knew, and the screen unlocked. Her stomach flipped. She clicked through emails, her eyes catching names she didn't recognize, dates that didn't match his excuses. One message made her freeze. "Can't wait for tomorrow, love you." The sender's name was blurred in her tears. Emma whispered, "He wrote those words for me once." She slammed the laptop shut, pressing her hands against it as if it might leap at her with more truths. Her chest heaved with the weight of betrayal, the silence of the room mocking her every breath. Emma met Sarah again, this time at Sarah's apartment. Sarah, 33 years old, blonde hair in a loose bun, sat on the couch, studying Emma's face. She said, "You've uncovered more, haven't you?" Emma nodded slowly, whispering, "He tells her he loves her. In messages. The same way he told me." Sarah leaned forward, anger flashing in her eyes. "Emma, you can't live in silence. You're breaking apart." Emma clutched the photo and her phone, tears streaking her face. "If I confront him, everything ends," she said. Sarah's voice softened. "It's already ending. The lies have destroyed what you had." Emma buried her face in her hands, whispering, "I don't know if I'm strong enough." Sarah wrapped her arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "You're stronger than you think," Sarah said firmly. Emma sat trembling, the weight of truth suffocating her. The room felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were closing in with judgment. Emma sat at the park the next day, watching children play. Her eyes locked onto a boy with the same brown eyes as Daniel, laughing with his mother. She realized it was the same child from the photo. The woman stood nearby, chatting with another parent, her laughter carrying on the wind. Emma whispered, "It's her. She's real." Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped her coffee. She wanted to run, to scream, but her body rooted to the bench. The woman glanced her way for a moment, unaware of the storm she carried. Emma quickly turned her face, heart pounding in her ears. She whispered, "What if she knows about me?" The thought pierced her like fire. She couldn't look away from the boy's smile, Daniel's smile. Her world felt like glass cracking under weight, ready to shatter at any second. She whispered, "This is the truth living right in front of me." That night, Emma waited in the kitchen when Daniel came home. He dropped his keys on the counter, smiling, and said, "Hey, dinner smells amazing." Her heart twisted. She whispered, "Where were you?" He raised his brows, confused. "Work ran late," he said smoothly. She forced a smile, whispering, "Of course." Her mind screamed with rage, but her lips stayed silent. Daniel moved closer, brushing her cheek with his hand, his charm steady as always. She wanted to recoil, but forced herself to hold still. "You're tense," he said softly. "Everything okay?" Her voice trembled. "I just need sleep." He nodded, kissing her forehead. Emma gripped the counter behind her, hiding the photo in her pocket, her hand clenched tight. The lies tasted bitter in her mouth, but the fear of losing everything kept her chained. She whispered, inwardly, "You're breaking me every day, and I let you." Emma sat alone in the dark living room, after Daniel went to bed. The only light came from the street lamp outside, spilling through blinds in harsh stripes across her face. She clutched the photo again, her fingers trembling. She whispered, "Tomorrow, I will confront him. I can't live like this." Tears streamed freely, her shoulders shaking. She remembered Sarah's words, silence would destroy her. Her heart raced at the thought of facing Daniel, of tearing down the mask he wore so easily. Yet fear coiled inside her like a snake, hissing doubts. She whispered, "What if he denies it again? What if he twists it all?" The shadows stretched long across the room, swallowing her small figure. She pressed the photo to her chest, whispering, "No more lies." In that moment, she realized the storm was no longer coming. It was already here, and she would have to stand in it. The next evening, Emma waited in the living room, clutching the photo in her trembling hands. When Daniel walked in, setting down his briefcase, she stood frozen, her breath shallow. He smiled warmly and said, "Hey, Em, you look tense." She stepped forward, whispering, "Where were you last night?" His brows furrowed slightly. "Working late," he replied smoothly. Emma's chest tightened as she pulled the photo from her hand, holding it up with shaking fingers. "Then who is she?" Daniel's eyes darkened for the first time, the mask cracking. His lips parted, but no words came. The silence sliced through the room sharper than any blade. Emma whispered, "Tell me the truth. No more lies." He finally said, "It's complicated." Her body trembled, rage rising through her fear. "Complicated? That's a family, Daniel." His silence confirmed everything. The world she built shattered in a single, undeniable moment. Emma's voice rose, trembling with fury. "How long have you been lying to me?" Daniel exhaled heavily, running his hand through his hair. "Emma, listen." She cut him off, shouting, "No, I want answers." His calm charm cracked into desperation. He said, "It wasn't supposed to be this way. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." Her heart ached at his words, the audacity of his confession. She whispered, "You built a life with her. You built lies with me." Daniel's face hardened. "I love you both," he muttered, shame flickering in his eyes. Emma gasped, her knees weakening. "Both?" Her voice cracked like glass breaking. His silence was worse than the words, a confirmation sharper than a confession. She whispered, "You've destroyed me." Daniel's eyes softened with regret, but it was too late. His truth was poison, spreading through everything she once believed. Emma sank onto the couch, her body shaking uncontrollably. She whispered, "You told me I was your world." Daniel crouched down in front of her, his face filled with pleading desperation. "You are, Emma. You always have been." She shook her head violently, clutching the photo to her chest. "Then what am I holding, Daniel? What is this if not betrayal?" His lips trembled, but no excuse escaped. He placed his hand on hers, whispering, "I thought I could balance it. I thought I could keep both lives." Her stomach churned, nausea rising like fire. She yanked her hand away, shouting, "You're a coward!" His eyes glistened with regret, but it only fueled her rage. She whispered, "Do you even realize what you've done to me?" Daniel lowered his head, silent, his shoulders heavy with guilt. For Emma, the silence was more devastating than words. Emma's voice broke into sobs, her fury melting into anguish. She whispered, "Was any of it real? The love, the promises, the nights you swore forever?" Daniel's face twisted with pain, his voice cracking. "Yes, all of it was real. I love you." She shook her head, her tears falling like rivers. "Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't shatter lives." He reached for her again, desperation in his eyes, but she recoiled, pressing herself into the corner of the couch. "Stay away from me," she whispered. Daniel froze, his hands trembling, as if afraid to lose even the chance to touch her. The silence dragged between them, thick and unbearable. Emma's chest heaved, her breath shallow. She whispered, "You've broken everything I am." The truth sat between them, undeniable, a wound that would never heal. Emma rose slowly, her body trembling but her voice steadier now. She whispered, "I don't know who you are anymore." Daniel stood, his expression collapsing into despair. "I'm still me," he pleaded. She shook her head, whispering, "No, you're two people, and I only ever loved one of them." He reached toward her, but she stepped back, raising her hand to stop him. "Don't," she said sharply. Her strength surprised her, a spark burning through the ruins of her heart. She whispered, "I will not be second in your life." Daniel's shoulders sagged as the truth slammed into him, his silence confirming his guilt. Emma clutched the photo one last time before throwing it onto the table. The sound of paper hitting wood felt like thunder. She whispered, "You ended us the moment you chose her to." The air between them froze, finality sinking into the silence. Emma's voice rose into a scream, raw and piercing. "You've destroyed me, Daniel." Her tears streamed as she shoved the photo against his chest. He staggered back, the paper slipping from his hands to the floor. Daniel's face twisted with anger and shame. "I didn't want this to happen," he shouted, his tone finally breaking. Emma shouted louder, "You wanted both lives. You wanted to be worshipped by me while keeping her." Her hands trembled, fists clenched at her sides. Daniel slammed his hand against the wall, the sound echoing through the house like thunder. "I love you, Emma, but I can't erase them," he roared. Her chest heaved, her body trembling from rage and despair. She whispered through sobs, "You're not the man I married. You're a stranger wearing his face." Silence fell heavy, broken only by the sound of her shattered breathing. Emma collapsed onto her knees, her sobs shaking her frame. She whispered, "I gave you everything. I sacrificed dreams for you." Daniel crouched, his face lined with torment. "I never asked you to." She cut him off, shrieking, you let me bleed for us while you built another life." Her voice cracked, raw with fury. Daniel's eyes burned as he gritted his teeth. "You don't understand, Emma. I needed both of you." She looked up at him, eyes blazing with betrayal. "Needed? You mean used?" Her hand slammed against the floor as if to ground herself in reality. Daniel tried to touch her shoulder, but she flinched violently away. "Don't touch me," she screamed. His hand hovered helplessly, then dropped. The distance between them felt like an ocean. Emma whispered, her voice broken, "You buried me in your lies, and I'll never crawl out." Emma rose suddenly, her body trembling but her voice sharp like a blade. "Do they know about me, Daniel? Does she know you've been living two lives?" His face froze, eyes darting away. That silence answered her more brutally than words. She shouted, "She doesn't know, does she? You've lied to her too." Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice low. "I tried to protect both of you." Emma's laugh erupted, bitter, broken. "Protect? You ruined us all." She pounded her chest, her voice breaking. "You ruined me." Daniel reached forward, desperate. "I can fix this." Emma shook her head violently. "You can't fix ashes." Her words landed like a final blow. His hands dropped to his sides, trembling. The storm of their lies had ripped open, and there was no shelter left. Daniel shouted back, his voice shaking the walls. "I loved you both. I couldn't let either of you go." Emma screamed, "That's not love, that's greed." Her chest rose and fell violently, fury consuming her. Daniel grabbed the edge of the table, his knuckles white, his body trembling with desperation. "You were everything to me," he said, his voice cracking, but so was she. Emma's eyes filled with fire. "Then you chose no one. You destroyed both." Her words sliced like knives, each syllable deliberate. Daniel's eyes welled with tears, but they only deepened her disgust. She whispered, her voice cold, "I'd rather be alone than share your lies." His body sagged, his strength collapsing. The silence that followed was worse than the storm. It was the death of everything they had been. Emma stood rigid, her tears drying into steel. She whispered, "Look at me, Daniel." He raised his eyes, broken, desperate. She said firmly, "You don't get to have both. You don't get to keep me in your lie." He whispered, "Don't leave me." She shook her head, whispering, "You already left me. The day you built another life." His lips trembled as if searching for words, but nothing came. Emma took a step back, her body trembling, her spirit sparking with new strength. She whispered, "This ends tonight." The weight of her words hung in the air like thunder before a strike. Daniel's shoulders collapsed, his body defeated. Emma turned away, gripping the wall for balance, her chest heaving. The house felt like a grave, their love buried in lies, their future already gone. The house was silent, but Emma's heart pounded like a war drum. She stood by the window, staring into the night, her reflection fractured in the glass. Behind her, Daniel sat on the couch, his shoulders hunched, his face buried in his hands. He whispered, "Emma, please don't do this. Don't walk away." She closed her eyes, her tears burning like fire. She whispered, "I already walked away the moment I found the truth." Daniel looked up, his eyes red and broken. "I can change," he pleaded, his voice trembling. Emma turned, her face pale but steady, whispering, "You can't change what you've already destroyed." Her words fell like stones, each syllable sinking into the heavy silence. Daniel buried his face again, his body shaking. Emma turned back to the window, gripping the frame as if holding herself together. The night outside felt endless, but at least it was honest. Emma packed a small bag in the bedroom, her hands trembling as she folded clothes into silence. Daniel stood at the doorway, his voice desperate. "You're really leaving?" She paused, her back stiff, whispering, "I have to." He stepped inside, his eyes wet, whispering, "We can fix this. Please don't go." Emma zipped the bag, her tears falling silently onto the fabric. She whispered, "You fixed nothing. You only broke me." Daniel reached for her arm, but she pulled away sharply, her body recoiling. "Don't touch me," she whispered with steel in her voice. His hand hovered helplessly in the air before falling to his side. The silence between them was colder than winter. Emma lifted the bag, her shoulders shaking under its weight, not from clothes but from everything she carried inside. She whispered, "This isn't my home anymore." Emma stepped into the hallway, her bag over her shoulder, her body trembling with every step. Daniel followed, his voice breaking. "Emma, please. I'll do anything." She stopped halfway down the hall, her breath shallow. She whispered, "You already did everything. And it destroyed us." His face crumbled, his lips trembling with words he could no longer speak. The air between them hung heavy, filled with ghosts of promises long dead. Emma turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his one last time. "You don't deserve my love anymore," she whispered, her voice sharp as glass. Daniel's knees buckled and he sank against the wall, his face buried in his hands again. Emma turned away, her body rigid with resolve. Each step toward the front door felt like tearing skin from bone, but it was the only way forward. She whispered, "Goodbye," and the word echoed like a final prayer. Emma opened the front door, the cold night air rushing in like a cleansing wave. She stepped onto the porch, clutching her bag, her breath visible in the chill. Behind her, Daniel stood in the doorway, his face pale and broken. He whispered, "Don't leave me in this silence." She turned slightly, her eyes wet, but her voice steady. "Silence is better than lies." His body sagged, his hand gripping the frame as though the house itself might collapse. Emma stepped off the porch, her feet hitting the pavement with finality. Each step carried the weight of every betrayal, every sleepless night, every shattered promise. Daniel whispered something, but the wind carried it away. Emma didn't turn back. The darkness ahead frightened her, but at least it was hers to walk through. She whispered, "This is where I begin again." Emma walked down the empty street, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the night. Her body shook with exhaustion, but her heart beat with a strange new rhythm. She whispered, "He doesn't own me anymore." Behind her, the house stood in silence, Daniel trapped in the ruins of his own lies. She stopped under a street lamp, the light falling over her like a fragile halo. Her eyes glistened with tears, but her lips curved into the faintest, most broken smile. She whispered, "I survived you." The words cut deeper than any scream, leaving silence in their wake. The night stretched wide, endless, and terrifying, but also free. Emma took another step forward, and the sound of her footsteps faded into the darkness. Daniel sat in the doorway far behind, whispering into the void, but no one listened. The final blow was silence itself.